You're listening to the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. Now here's your hosts, Kevin, Derek, and Alex.
All righty, welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast. I am Derek, and I am joined, as always, by your co-host, Kevin. Kevin, how are we doing tonight?
Doing good, man. Doing good. So we got through week one, right? Getting geared up for week two. Here we are, Thursday night game in the books. I'm ready to go through some of these lines. I think there's some juicy props out here for week number two that you and I are going to touch on. And as always, trying to help anybody involved with start sits, lineup decisions, trades, free agency, anything that can help you win this week and get one step closer to a fantasy football championship. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. I cannot wait. We've got a great episode tonight, right? It's the Friday night Fantasy Football Lights show where we talk about, all the different spreads, all the different over and unders of the weekend slate. We're going to go through several of the props out there. And like you said, there were some of these props going through that I absolutely couldn't believe my eyes when I saw some of these things. There are some absolutely juicy ones out there, both from an overside and an underside, and some things that I think that are very, very winnable out there. Definitely feeling pretty good after week one, where last week, I did pretty well in my props. I went 9-4 on all the different props that we went through on last week's show. So feeling pretty good about that. And we're going to see if we can't continue that mojo and keep the ball rolling here. Guys, hit us up on the socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitch at Good Old Boys FF. We've got all the good stuff there for you. Interact, all that kind of good stuff. You got questions throughout the week, whatever. Shoot them over to us. We'll get those questions answered for you. And again, one of the best ways to support this independent podcast is head on over to the YouTube channel and click that subscribe button. Also, one of the best ways to get a hold of us is in the comments on the YouTube channel there as well. So absolutely, I cannot wait. This is going to be a blast. We have a ton of questions already kind of coming in here. A ton of comments out there from folks, tuning in and watching. Kick off some of these things. Stacks app saying, "Let's go, boys! Can't wait to see these picks." Always appreciate the Stacks apps tuning in there. Great platform over there. Leadership lesson saying it was a wild week one. Love it. What does week two have in store? You're lucky. We got an entire show dedicated to answering that question for you. Leadership lessons. We got a bunch of other comments out there and questions out there that we've kind of gotten throughout the week, and we're gonna go through some of those and help folks set their lineups. Get those things going there as well. And before we get there, we had, the Thursday night game was last night. Premier matchup between two of the elite quarterbacks out there. And definitely didn't necessarily play out the way that we fully anticipated. I know that you and I both called for the under in that one. We thought that we would see the Chiefs cover and talk about the Chargers kind of pulling the backdoor cover on that hook there of the 3.5 line, and they only lose by 3. So kind of an interesting wild ride, and that one didn't go quite according to how I'd called that one, but still a great game and a fun game to watch nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully for Justin Herbert, right? The crack in the rib cartilage, right, is what they're calling it. Hopefully that is able to heal real quick. He's going to keep that wrapped tight here for the next couple weeks. Obviously, trying to absorb some hits. Offensive line's going to have to step up a bit because the Chargers really did a great job in that game, right? They're able to move the ball offensively. They gave the Chiefs secondary fits, and then the pick six kind of changed it all right there. But if Gerald Everett is still on your waiver wire, and in some leagues he is, but if Gerald Everett's still on your waiver wire, you need to run out right now and go grab him and dump whatever lowly receiver is on your team that you don't need, right? So he is going to be extremely relevant in this Chargers offense. We've seen that through 2 weeks with and without Keenan Allen. Everett is still a nice piece to have of a pretty high-profile offense. Even with a lot of mouths to feed, they're going to throw the ball so stinking much. He is worth a roster spot. So, we talk about this, streaming tight ends, finding guys who you can play, waiting late on tight ends. We talked about grabbing Everett late, doing our draft previews. This is coming to fruition right in front of our eyes. Get your hands on Gerald Everett and stash him if he's anywhere on your waiver wire.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get into a couple of these questions before we start breaking down some of the games. Alfredo on the YouTube asked, start sit on some running backs. He's got Najee, Damian Harris, Jeff Wilson, Akers. His wide receivers are DK, Jefferson, Michael Thomas, Adam Thielen, Jacoby Myers, George Pickens. And what he's really looking there for, I think, is two running backs to start there. He also said that his QB is Lamar. He also has D-Hop there on his bench, tight end of Dawson Knox, the Colts defense, and Green Bay's defense, and Robbie Gould as his kicker. So I'm starting Najee, even with the potential that he may be out there or limited fashion. And I think I'm going to start Jeff Wilson is another one that I'm looking to start there.
Yeah, I think it is a coin flip between Jeff Wilson and Damian Harris. I think you're going to see pretty similar stat lines out from the two of them. Jeff Wilson, I think, is probably going to be split in time in that backfield with Debo, right? So there's something to be cognizant of last year as we saw all the success that Debo had playing that kind of running back, H-back type fly position for the Niners. I think we're going to see some more of that here this next couple of weeks. So it's going to take away from Debo's probably his PPR totals, right? Because he's not going to be catching as many balls because he's not going to be running as many routes. But when they get into the red zone, it does seem to help him. And I know I'm getting off track a little bit. So that's what's kind of worrying me about Jeff Wilson slightly. But then you have Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson and how they're going to kind of split that up. Mixon had a pretty good game against the Steelers. So I think the Patriots can do the same thing. Zach Wilson's kind of nursing an injury, or excuse me. Holy cow. Mac Jones is kind of nursing an injury as well. So I could see them trying to keep that game on, or the game on the ground a little bit more so he's not airing it out. And you're definitely sitting Akers this week until he can prove us, right? Prove something that he's going to get more involved in that Rams offense. So I'm going to agree on Najee. I'm going to pivot to Damian Harris just because I think that game's going to lead towards him being on the ground a little bit more. And he doesn't have a running quarterback and a running wide receiver also playing running back that he's contending with. And then obviously your wide receivers, you're starting Jefferson. And I'm going to say you're starting DK this week just because Michael Thomas is going up against the Buccaneers.
Fair enough. Alrighty. Gavin asks, Josh Jacobs or David Montgomery week 2. Smash David Montgomery for me.
Cosign. I like Monty. There's a reason you drafted him before you drafted Jacobs, right? I just don't trust that. Derek Carr's still trying to play with his new toys, ton of passing weapons for him. Josh McDaniels tends to like to throw the ball a little bit more. He preaches balance, but he also has a ton of weapons to use that he didn't ever really have in New England outside of the season with Randy Moss. So I'm going to say Monty this week.
Yeah, I like that one. Bill also chiming in here. Thoughts on who to start? A.J. Dillon, David Montgomery, PPR. It's a tough one. I like both on that one, but go ahead. Go ahead if you've got a thought here.
I think I'm going to lean A.J. Dillon by a hair. Now, if anybody's really pushing for Monty, I don't know that I'm going to argue that. Obviously, the Bears are not the prolific passing team, so they're going to keep it on the ground more than what the Vikings did the week before, which probably allows Green Bay to run the ball a bit more, and Aaron Rodgers isn't dropping back as much, so you'll see more A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones involved this week. Honestly, I think both find the end zone this week too, so I think that's kind of a wash. I'm going to say with it being the PPR is why I'm going to say Dillon. I think AJ sees a couple more targets and is able to make something out of it than Monty, just because Herbert, at least in week 1, was a thorn in our sides. And the Bears aren't really set up to run 2 running backs and have them both be efficient and fantasy worthy. But I think the Packers are right now.
Yeah. I'm kind of right there with you. This one here is a coin flip for me. And I think I am probably going to lean on the AJ side of it just from the PPR standpoint. David Montgomery, where we've seen him get work, is going to be on the ground game. And so it wouldn't surprise me if you see AJ Dillon get, 12 carries and 5 targets, and David Montgomery get 15 carries and 2 targets type of thing. That wouldn't surprise me at all. And with it being PPR, I'll take the passing volume more so than not. So, all righty, let's take a look here and see. We got, I know we just got the Bills there. We'll get Bill. I see your other one. We'll get to there in a minute. Alfredo saying cheers. Kevin saying what's up, guys? What is up? Glad to see y'all in the chat. Let's go ahead and let's head over and break down one of these matchups here real quick, and we'll come back and hit some more of these questions and get you guys rolling as far as start sits, all of these deals out here as well. First matchup, we have got the New York Jets and the Cleveland Browns. Browns favored by 6.5. The over-under is 39.5 on this one. What are your thoughts here?
Man, I think I'm going to take the Jets to cover. I see this being a low-scoring affair. Like, I'm thinking the under. I don't see a whole lot of touchdowns being scored, and I do feel like there's going to be a lot of ground game on both sides. You have Chubb and Kareem Hunt on one side, and then on the other side, Michael Carter and Breece Hall. I think both teams just kind of want to grind this out, right? It's going to be a slugfest in the trenches. I think Cleveland ultimately comes up with the win, so Cleveland on the money line. But I think the Jets are going to keep this closer than the 6.5. So I'm going to take, I guess, the Jets to cover, the under, and Cleveland on the money line.
Yeah, that's about how I see this one as well, right? I've got this thing being a 17-13 Cleveland victory. So Jets covering, the under being hit here. Cleveland winning. Like this is not going to be a very good, fun matchup on this one. This is going to be one of those that I think I'll be really glad if this is a blackout game in our area. Not going to lie. But both teams actually played very well against the run last week, right? The Browns holding Christian McCaffrey to less than 40 yards rushing. The Jets held the Ravens to like 3 yards a carry last week. So you could see kind of a slow, just ground and pound, 3 yards cloud of dust kind of constantly in this one. Not going to surprise me if that's the case. Jacoby Brissett, he's not going to throw the ball down the field. He's not going to, really drive the ball on that. This passing game was just kind of yuck last week. Joe Flacco, we saw him pass a ton, didn't equate to a ton of passing volume. So there's a lot of kind of mixed bags on this one.
Are you buying the Donovan Peoples-Jones hype that's kind of slowly starting to come up, especially in the underground, right? Deeper leagues, that type of thing. You're starting to see a little bit of buzz after week one. Clearly, the Browns need a second wide receiver alongside Mari Cooper. Was week one enough for you to sign off on, he's the Browns' number 2, albeit in a limited passing game, or are you still kind of waiting to see what comes from this week to maybe get a little bit more tape and make a definitive decision?
This was one of those that we actually talked about earlier in the week, right? Like we, after I got done watching the Browns game, like it was very apparent that Donovan Peoples-Jones, and it could just be some of the scheme that they were looking up at, some of the way that they had drawn that up, but Donovan Peoples-Jones was Jacoby Brissett's look on most of those things. He sat there and kind of glossed by Amari Cooper, found Donovan Peoples-Jones and threw the ball there. So I don't know if it was a little bit because he had some softer coverage out there to it, but there's a lot to be said about a guy that gets targeted like 11 times in a game. I don't know that I'm fully buying in on that yet, but I definitely have Donovan Peoples-Jones flagged going forward and is one that I'm going to be keeping a massive eye on. Potentially adding him on a lot of my leagues here after this week and seeing how this one kind of plays out. And what I'm going to be looking for is I'm not going to be looking for the stat line, right? Like that's a lot of things that a lot of fantasy players will look at is how many targets would they get, some of the advanced metrics, things like that. When I'm watching this game, as unfortunately I end up watching all of the games to see kind of how some of these things go. But when I watch this game, I am going to be looking for, how does when Jacoby goes through his progressions, when he gets to the DPJ read, how quickly does he fire the ball right there? Because in week 1, he got to that read and the ball was gone. Some of that has to do with the fact that he's going to try and get the ball out quick, all of that. But some of that too is they seem to have real chemistry there too. So I want to watch and see what it looks like this week. But I'm leaning towards that enough to have flagged that and seriously start considering adding him in some cases. So hopefully that answered the question there. Let's go ahead and hit up some props here. I've got a prop I really liked on this one. We called for Michael Carter to have a good game last week. We're going to call for him to have an over on his rushing prop here again. So I've got Michael Carter over 39.5 rushing yards in this matchup.
Yeah, I like that one as well. I still think he's going to see a little bit over half, right? Him and Breece Hall kind of split the workload a little bit last week, and I think that's going to continue. But Michael Carter did nothing to lose timeshare in that backfield. He was a little bit more efficient than Breece Hall, was good out of the passing game, which helps in PPR leagues. So I like that. And 40 yards, I think he can absolutely get to that. The prop that I really liked for this game was Kareem Hunt over 17.5 receiving yards. I feel like that's a pretty low number for Kareem Hunt and how Jacoby Brissett tends to function there. I could see Hunt with, somewhere in the neighborhood of 30, 35 yards receiving out of the backfield this game. So for me, that was a pretty quick smash over when I came across that one.
Love it. All righty, let's get to a couple more questions here before we head on into the next matchup here. And I've got a few of these things down here. Bill asking, start one of these wide receivers, Brandon Ayuk, Jahan Dotson, or Devonta Smith. That's kind of a mixed bag here, right? Like Devonta Smith went 0 for 4 last week. Jahan Dotson had a good week, right? And he hit the prop that we called for last week on the show, where it was the over on his receiving yards. But a lot of Jahan Dotson's fantasy value came on those 2 touchdowns. And Brandon Ayuk, again, like this is one of those that you've got to believe in San Francisco really going to be willing to pass the ball. And I don't know that I'm willing to sign off on that one. So let's do it this way. Rank them 1, 2, 3. Who you got?
Ooh, I'm gonna go Devonta Smith, Jahan Dotson, Brandon Ayuk, and I'm going Devonta Smith by a fraction of a hair, because I really feel like the defensive backs for Minnesota are not very quick, right? We saw Green Bay be able to get behind them at times. They just didn't come up with catches. And with the game that A.J. Brown had in week 1, there's going to be extra attention around him. And I don't know if these corners can keep up with Devonta Smith off the line. So I think he's going to see a little bit more success there. Obviously, the touchdown play is probably leaning towards Dotson slightly more than Smith, but in PPR leagues, I think Smith's volume will kind of make up for that in this game. And then, like you said, Brandon Ayuk, I am not a believer in Brandon Ayuk. I don't see Trey Lance slinging it around the yard, and then you're still trying to feed Debo. You obviously have George Kittle possibly coming back after a week 1 absence. Yes, the game should be a little bit more weather-friendly than the monsoon that the Niners played in last week, but Seattle's defense did a pretty good job against the pass. Divisional matchup, so that one's always tight. So, Devonta, Dotson, then Ayuk.
Yeah, I could see that being a toss-up there. I'm going to start Devonta Smith, first of all, on that one. He's still targeted 4 times. I think that he will see his target share come up a little bit. I think that is going to be a little bit more of a back and forth type of matchup. You've got some pretty high powered offenses going up against each other in that Vikings and Philadelphia match there. So I like the pace of play and the amount of plays that I'm going to see and the yardage total that I think I'm going to see in that one. And I'm going to lean Dotson for number 2, just simply from the standpoint that I think that is going to be a fairly high scoring game when you're talking Commanders and the Lions, with a lot of kind of Yeah, and I think that you're going to see some yardage in that one. I think you're going to see a lot of touchdowns scored in that one. And Brandon Ayuk, this could very well be one of those that the Niners put that game away early. It's a massive spread favoring the Niners on this one. And they could take the ball completely out of the air and just let Trey Lance run the ball, let Debo, Jeff Wilson run the ball. Maybe we start seeing some of Tyrion Davis-Price and Jordan Mason in that fourth quarter too. So it wouldn't surprise me to see the ball pretty much, on the ground, very much into that fourth quarter and even into the third quarter of that Niners game. So I'm going to go with Smith, Dotson, and Ayuk as well. Next question coming in here. Ewick on YouTube. Hey guys, how's your night been? Fantastic. We're getting to talk football, so you can't have a better night than that. I don't think. If somebody's got a better idea of it, throw it out there. I'd love to hear it. But he has a quick lineup question. He's in an 8-man league, PPR. I'm trying to figure out who to start at flex. Henderson, Sutton, Michael Thomas. He's going to need a little bit of firepower. He needs upside. He played against Mike Williams last night. What are your thoughts here?
Sutton's your upside guy.
Yep.
Sutton's your upside guy. He is kind of that deep threat in this Denver Broncos offense. Yes, I know Judy caught the one last week for the touchdown, but if you look at the number of times, right, they ran the same play to Sutton probably three different times, right? Two of them, I believe, went for PI. One arguably could have been a PI, but Sutton is more of the deep threat for the Broncos offense. So if you're going upside, bang plays, yardage bonuses, I think Sutton has a higher potential for a touchdown this week out of anybody else on your list. So that would be who I'm starting to try and, counter the Mike Evans play, the Mike Williams play.
Right. Darrell Henderson is going to be a floor play for me. Like, he is going to get some good volume. He's going to do some good things there. I do like him, but if upside's what you need, Sutton is the absolute play on that one. And everybody's that's very quick to rush out and go, oh, Judy is the way that this thing's going to go. The vast majority of Judy's production in week one came on one play. And it was a play that just as easily could have been knocked to the ground as it was Judy pulling that thing out and scoring a touchdown. Like, that was a very close play. Russell actually didn't lead him far enough. If he puts that ball out there about 4 yards further in the air, Judy has a walking touchdown on that one. But great play by Judy. Scored the touchdown. Got a long yardage on that one.
I was just happy he didn't drop it.
Yeah, me too.
The last 2 years, right? The Judy that we have seen, he drops that ball 80% of the time. Right. And the fact that he was able to focus through traffic, maybe bobble it a little bit. It wasn't a clean catch, but he focused, right? His focus was there and he's able to bring it in, and then he was off and gone. And I think as a Broncos fan, that's what I was most happy about. Yeah, the touchdown's great, but the fact that you saw him focus and watch the ball in was a sign of growth, which I think is good things for the Denver offense.
Right. We also saw Judy drop one in the fourth quarter there. That was pretty wide open too. So it was one of those still mixed bag with him there a little bit. And as far as Michael Thomas goes, Michael Thomas against the Bucs, the Bucs Saints just have a very typically low scoring type of affair, low scoring type of game. It's one that if I can pivot from a lot of starters on that one, I'm going to pivot. Ewick, that would be how I would go that, and how it sounds like we're ranking those things is, rank them for upside is going to be Sutton. But I'm going to take Henderson as the second play there and Thomas as the third. Sound about right, Kevin? That's one.
I think I'm going Thomas then Henderson. I think we're going to see more Cam Akers. Cam Akers has to see more play than 3 touches. I think the Rams have an easier time controlling this game, which overall is probably good for Henderson and Akers both. But I guess you got to be able to get the ball to somebody in that Saints Tampa Bay game. And for PPR, it just helps eat so much of that deficit away, right? As far as, yeah, it might be tough, but you could see Michael Thomas go 7 for 65. I mean, it's not the greatest stat line ever, but it's 13 points in a PPR league. I mean, just trying to figure out what your roster needs and whether you're going floor or ceiling.
Right. I like it. All right, guys, I know we've got a couple more questions in there. We're going to hit our next breakdown here in our matchup, and then we'll come right back to these and get some more questions answered here. So let's go ahead and head to the next matchup here. We got Commanders, Lions. Lions are favored by 1 earlier, and you've got the over-under 48.5. Thoughts on this matchup?
I'm trying to figure out why the Lions are favored here. Like, they looked okay as far as putting up points against the Eagles, but there are times where they're still lost, right? Like, it's still hard to take the Lions there. Carson Wentz looked really good in week 1. It's in a dome, which I think helps Carson Wentz. He's not fighting the elements. Man, I think overall, I think I'm going to take the Commanders in this one to be able to come out with the victory. But it's going to be, I think this will actually be a pretty entertaining game. Like, I like that 48.5. I'm going to say over. I think we're looking at another game kind of like what we saw with the Lions and the Eagles last week. It wouldn't surprise me if this game went north of 50 total. So it should be good for fantasy purposes. Wentz's matchup is good. The way that the Eagles were able to run the ball, I think, is good things for Jamal Williams and DeAndre Swift both. Other side, for Antonio Gibson. And you'll see probably a little bit of J.D. McKissick run and everything else. But, Commanders and the over.
Gotcha. Did you also hit your prop on that one?
Didn't hit my prop on that one. So the prop I really like on that one is a Carson Wentz over 1.5 touchdowns. So I think, again, with this game, seeing it being over 50 total points, I think Wentz is able to find 2, maybe even 3 this game again after I had 4 last week. So obviously Curtis Samuel, Jahan Dotson, and then F1, you got plenty of options there.
I like it. I'm gonna differ on you a little bit though, right? You're calling for the Commanders for the win. I'm gonna call for a Lions victory on this one. I see this one being about a 27-24 Detroit victory, playing at home, getting the win. Dan Campbell's got that team gritty. So let's see what they can do here. But I see the over. I see Detroit with the win and the cover on that one. I really like that Carson Wentz prop that you throwed out there. Another one that I really liked was DeAndre Swift on the over 57.5 rushing yards. We just saw him go absolutely wild last week. I know he's dealing with a little bit of an ankle bug, it looks like, but looked like he did log a full practice today. And I do think that you're going to see him be able to really have another wonderful game in the rushing category against a Commanders team that had a tougher time slowing down that Jacksonville run last week. So I think that you're going to see a very, very fun game here. And really this game, what it comes down to is what quarterback is going to make the least amount of mistakes for me when it's all said and done, right? Is it going to be Carson Wentz that makes the least amount of mistakes? Is it going to be Jared Goff that makes the least amount of mistakes? Because last week, Jared Goff doesn't throw that pick six, there's a good chance Detroit gets out of that game last week with a win. So who's going to be more mistake-free play at the quarterback? I think that's who's going to end up winning this one overall here. So I like it. Let's go ahead and hit up some more questions that we've got coming in here. Lowell on YouTube asking which two should he start? Kareem Hunt, Rashad Penny, or Alvin Kamara? Thoughts on this one?
I'm going to go Hunt and Penny for week 2. Kamara's battling the injury bug. Again, this Tampa Bay defense does a good job keying in on things. I don't think Jameis Winston scares Tampa Bay at all. So I think they're going to kind of focus in on stopping AK and daring Jameis to beat their one-on-one coverage. So I like Kareem Hunt. Obviously, the 2 touchdowns last week because Kevin Stefanski, like I said earlier, I think on our Tuesday show, right, refuses to let Nick Chubb score touchdowns for some God only knows reason. So Kareem Hunt and Rashad Penny, I thought he ran pretty well against Denver. I thought they just kind of, for whatever reason, they moved away from it a little bit. And by the time they went back to the run game, Denver was keyed in on what they were doing. But I thought Penny ran well, ran hard. And I think we're at least going to see the attempt, right? Because the Niners pass rush will probably do a little bit better job getting to Geno Smith than the Broncos did. So you could see some more quick dump offs to Penny as kind of the main pass catching back, even with Kenneth Walker coming into play this week.
Yeah, that's one of those that I'm staring down some of those own start sits in my own in some of my own lineups, and Alvin Kamara is one that if I can pivot from, I'm going to pivot from. That Bucs defense has always been, last few years anyway, has been very good against the run, and I think that's where you're going to see that one, and I think you're going to see the Buccaneers come in with a plan to make the Saints beat them through the air and try and pass the ball on them. So I co-sign on that one. I'm going to go with Hunt and Penny with you as well. Jacob on YouTube asking, he needs 2 wide receivers in PPR, Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton, Michael Thomas. For me, it's Deontay Johnson, Cortland Sutton on this one. Even though I've got Deontay Johnson, I called for the Pine on our Tuesday show. I think in a straight up points per game between Thomas and Johnson, I think Deontay Johnson is going to have more points this week.
I agree with the Sutton. I think I'm actually going to pivot and go Michael Thomas on this one. And the only reason is I trust Jameis Winston slightly more to be able to feed his alpha receiver in Michael Thomas than I do Mitch Trubisky, who seemed pretty content on just sprinkling the ball around, right? Deontay got his shots. Claypool got his shots. We saw a couple go towards Pickens. Freiermuth's in there. Trubisky's going to take what the defense gives him, and I think the Patriots are going to try and limit Deontay here a little bit. So I think because of that, we're going to see Jameis kind of be a little bit stubborn here and force feed Michael Thomas with some Jarvis Landry sprinkled in on the backside.
All righty. I like it. Let's go ahead and hit up our next breakdown here. And I see we've got some more questions kind of coming in here and all that. And we'll hit those ones up as soon as we get back from this next breakdown here. Buccaneers, Saints. That's the matchup we're talking about now. So Tampa Bay Buccaneers, New Orleans Saints. Buccaneers favored by 2.5 in this one. The over-under is 44.5. Thoughts on this one?
I'm going to take the Saints outright in this one. Yes. The Saints have had Tampa Bay's number. Defensively, they do a pretty good job getting to Tom Brady and rattling him a little bit. And the Buccaneers are riddled with injuries right now. Chris Godwin's not going to play. Julio's nursing a hamstring. Mike Evans is nursing a calf. Russell Gage is nursing a hamstring. Leonard Fournette's nursing a hamstring. Their left tackle has been ruled out for the game. Then the Saints will do a good job of getting pressure right up the middle and in his face. So I think Tampa Bay is going to struggle this game. So I'm going to say the under, and I'm going to say the Saints.
You and I see this one very similarly. I got the Buccaneers 18, the Saints 21. So I see the Saints winning this thing. I see the under on this one. Yeah, and I think for all the reasons that you just said, the Saints looked pretty decent on the defensive side of the ball once they finally kind of got their act together in the second half there. Came out looking a little sloppy in the first half, but second half they got it together, got things under control, and really kind of took control of that game. I think that they learned a lot from that last week, and Tampa Bay is just too banged up right now to really, I think, give them a full, their full due. Plus, not only that, Tom Brady has yet to beat the Saints while he's been a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. So I see that trend continuing, especially this one being a home game for the Saints. And I know you and I, when we were looking at the props on this one, we both came to this prop and just smashed the yes on this one, on the under on this one. Jameis Winston under 239.5 passing yards. So thoughts on this one?
I think he flirts with the number, but I 240 passing yards against his defense is going to be tough, right? This is going to be another grinded out, gritty game. We're going to see, one first down punt type series games, a lot of field position. Obviously we both called for the under. So as long as Jameis doesn't make the mistakes, he'll be able to kind of try and feed Kamara and Mark Ingram both some things sprinkled in, but to get over 240 passing yards for Jameis, that's going to be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I think that one's going to be tough too. So, alrighty. So, again, kind of a more of a defensive matchup here with not a lot of, this is one of those that there's a lot of like big name fantasy players in here, but it's one that if I can pivot away from, I'm going to pivot away from this match where I can. All right, a couple of other questions coming in here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Lowell asking, he doesn't know if he should start Landry or DK Metcalf. Lowell, it kind of depends on what you're needing there. Landry actually probably has a little bit more upside than what DK Metcalf has this week, just from a PPR type of standpoint. You may see him get peppered in there a little bit. You're probably going to see him. I'm going to say that Landry, I think, gets more yardage than DK does this week. Because Geno Smith doesn't seem to want to throw the ball more than about 5 yards beyond the line of scrimmage there. So unless DK breaks a big one there, it's not going to surprise me again if you see DK get 5-6 receptions for 39, 45 yards at the most.
Yeah, I think both quarterbacks are going to have kind of the same philosophy, right? The pass rush is coming. I'm going to get it out short, try and use my tight ends, which killed the Broncos, right? They've been terrible against tight ends for years, and the Seahawks, took advantage of that. DK still saw, 9 targets against the Broncos, something like that. So he's still a focal point of that offense. And man, that's a tough one. I'm going to lean DK. It's a coin flip. I'm not going to berate Derek for wanting to start Landry. I understand the appeal there. Both kind of have some tough matchups here against two of the better defenses in the NFL, especially against the pass. I'm going to take DK just star power, right? I think DK probably has a better chance of falling into the end zone this week than Landry does.
That's a fair point. Ewick on YouTube, what are your guys' thoughts on CeeDee Lamb for this week and the foreseeable future? If I don't have CeeDee on my team, I'm going to go out and try and buy low on that one, right? I'm going to see if I can get something for the second half of the season and see what I can do there. But if I've got him on my roster, I'm most likely having to just stand pat and try and weather the storm on this one and hope that Cooper Rush, peppers him with enough targets for him to pull some things out and make him flex playable in the foreseeable future. But it's going to be a tough road without Dak, I think.
Yeah, tough road. But in the game that Dak missed last year against Minnesota, CeeDee Lamb saw more than his fair share of targets coming his way. So I think Cooper Rush understands the philosophy of the offense, right? Like if he's going to be dropping back, CeeDee needs to be his first look. They just don't have enough star power in Dallas this year to really make alternate decisions. You're going to see a lot of Dalton Schultz, and you're going to see CeeDee Lamb. I think he's going to see 11 targets, even against really any type of competition. Now, they might not all be good targets or accurate targets, but if he gets 11 opportunities a game, if he's coming down with 6 of them, you're figuring he's going to get 65, 75 yards at least. So flex play, because you don't have better receiving options than CeeDee, right? Like in most cases, you don't have 2 better options. You might have one, but you're not going to come up with 2 better receiving options than CeeDee Lamb outside of injury, like Mike Williams, if you happen to draft them back to back in your draft or something like that. So you're playing CeeDee, but I agree with Derek. If you can get him on the cheap or at the low side where you're not necessarily paying up for everything, I think it's worth the investment. I think once Dak comes back, it'll help with things, obviously. But if you can get him, great. If you already have him, I agree with Derek. He's probably a flex play. I wouldn't necessarily count on him for wide receiver 1 type numbers, but most likely you don't have a better or 2 better options to stick him on your bench. So you just have to cross your fingers and hope for a lot of volume coming from Cooper Rush.
I like it. Alrighty, and guys, I do see some more questions coming in there. We're gonna get through our next breakdown, next matchup here, and then we will come back and answer some more of those questions here. I did see this comment though, and just wanted to throw it out here because it was a fun one. Bill saying he appreciates the breakdown. AJ's quads are the deciding factor for him in that AJ Dillon start sit decision there. Love it. And Lowell is saying thank you there as well. Alrighty, let's go ahead. We're going to hit up another breakdown. We're going to come back and we're going to hit up some more questions in the chat here. Alrighty, we're going to go. We're going to play some monkey knife fight. We got some rapid fire here coming at you. And rapid fire is a way that you're going to pick which player you think is going to score more fantasy points, this versus that. And if you get both of them right, you can win 2.5 times prize on that one. Very fun DFS entry. And if you enter the code GOBFF when you're signing up on Monkey Knife Fight, you can get a 100% deposit match bonus on deposits up to $100 there. So, Kevin, the rapid fire that you got, Lamar Jackson versus Jonathan Taylor, with Jonathan Taylor getting a 2.5 point bonus.
I'm going Taylor this week, right? And I think the reason that kind of is the deciding factors. Michael Pittman's nursing a quad injury. The Colts offense was kind of clunky at best last week. So you're hoping that they went back to the drawing board and realized we have one of, if not the best running back in the NFL on our roster right now. Our offensive line is still very solid. And this is going to be our way towards winning football games. The Jaguars, while slightly improved, are still a team that should be beatable, right? Especially for the Colts and their offense. So if Michael Pittman, especially if Michael Pittman's playing, I'm betting he's going to be a little bit limited. But I like Jonathan Taylor. His prop is anywhere from, what'd you say, Derek, 98.5 or 96.5? I just saw it at 101.5.
Yeah, it's right around 100 yards is his rushing total on that.
I feel okay about that. Not necessarily enough to, call the over or under, but I think his usage is going to be up this game as the Colts, try and really identify what they're going to be offensively. Lamar Jackson's got a tough matchup here against the Dolphins. Yes, they're at home, but I don't know that he's going to be passing the ball as much. So he's going to have a lot of rushing upside here and probably at least 3 total touchdowns to be able to beat Jonathan Taylor this week, in my opinion. So I'm going to take JT at 2.5 times the bonus.
Okay, and who you got? Call it the second one there too. Rapid fire, CMC or Saquon? Who are you taking as more fantasy points this week?
I'm gonna take Saquon. I'm gonna. He gets the slight bonus, so that helps at the 2.5. He's coming off of a very, very good week 1. These two actually are going head to head this week, which is kind of cool. So you'll be able to know that one live time just by watching that game. And I feel like the Giants are running their offense how the Panthers should have ran their offense last week against the Browns and making their star running back the focal point. And since the Giants seem to have already figured that out, I'm going to give them the slight edge with Saquon.
Yeah, I like that one. I'm going to take Jonathan Taylor as well, right? He has a massive over-under on the yardage and the usage there. Lamar Jackson, well, I think he'll have an okay game. I think that Miami has a good defense, and that team is fired up and wanting to play behind their new head coach. So I'm gonna take Jonathan Taylor in that one, especially with the bonus on that one. As far as the second one, as much as it pains me to say, I'm going to be on the Saquon Barkley train on this one. I'm going to take the bonus here as well. You look at some of their over-under. Saquon has the higher over-under rushing line this week versus CMC. And quite frankly, Carolina and Ben McAdoo last week seemed lost in trying to figure out how to get Christian McCaffrey the ball. The Giants certainly didn't have that issue. So I'm going to take Saquon on that one. So I got JT, Saquon for my rapid fire on this one. All righty, let's go ahead and hit some more questions here before we get to our next matchup breakdown here. Jacob on YouTube, another league. He has to pick 2 wide receivers between Cooks, Waddle, Metcalf, Bateman, PPR. I'm taking Brandon Cooks, and I think I'm taking Waddle. I think those are the 2 I'm taking.
Yeah, I think I'm going to agree with that. Cosign. Cooks, and Waddle for me as well.
Alrighty. Next question here. Leonardo throwing out Kelce and Eckler for Aaron Jones, Mike Evans, Curtis Samuel, Ertz. He gets Travis Kelce and Eckler. He also has Joe Mixon, Jefferson, Higgins, Deontay Johnson. Thoughts for the trade?
I don't know that I do this. Like Eckler's usage has been Eckler's usage through the first 2 games, because now we have 2 games worth of data for him. His usage is down 17% from last year already. He's not seeing, he got 1 carry to Sony Michel's 2 carries inside the red zone. So that's a little troublesome if he's not getting those touchdowns. Obviously, Eckler's a PPR machine, but I think Jones has to be better for the Packers to be good than Eckler has to be good for the Chargers to be good. There's just more options in LA. Now, Kelce is great, right? We want Travis Kelce. We like Travis Kelce, and that's a pretty high price to pay. But for Jones and Mike Evans, who, again, is another touchdown monster,
I'm going to stand pat.
I'm looking through the rest of his roster, trying to figure out how you devise that, right? Because you're using up most of your depth, but having Mixon, Eckler, Jefferson, Higgins, and Kelce most weeks, right? Deontay in your flex. As long as people stay healthy, you're good, right? You capitalize on the high end for Curtis Samuel. Ertz got a touchdown last week. And now I'm talking myself into this trade after I think I was going to talk myself out of it. Yeah, I think I do it. Eckler is going to see 15 touches a game one way or another. Kelce's going to see 7 to 8 targets a game out of the tight end position. Some weeks you get some of the higher side. I think I do it. I think you take the positional advantage at tight end on top of having a really good 1-2 combo with Mixon and Eckler. You have the best receiver in football too. I think I do the trade. You're going to have to find some depth, right? Like you're going to have to hope that these guys stay healthy. But you do. You have the best tight end in football. You have the best receiver in football, and you have, for fantasy purposes, you should have 2 of the top 5, maybe 2 of the top 8 running backs in football too. So, yeah, I do it, and just hope you have the depth. You're going to be hitting the waiver wire a little bit to fill in.
Yeah. I would go the opposite route. I think I would stand pat on that one. I like Aaron Jones as much as what I've seen and seen the Chargers use of Eckler. I probably think that Aaron Jones and Eckler are going to have a similar usage rate when this thing's all said and done. We aren't seeing Eckler get the goal line work like he got last year, and that was one of his big standouts for fantasy, was the fact that he was getting that massive usage there. Mike Evans, touchdown machine there. Plus he's good. Mike Evans is typically always good for 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. So that's a great wide receiver 2 to have in my lineup there. Curtis Samuel, I like the pop that I've seen from him last week. I want to see what he does this week, but I think he's in for another good game.
But he's not going to play him.
Fair enough. Ron Rivera and this coaching staff really like Curtis Samuel, having brought him over with them when they drafted him from Carolina to the Commanders there. And I think that we're going to see him. They're going to find a way to purposely get the ball in his hand every week, to the point where I like the depth play there. And Ertz, I like the potential touchdown upside there as well. So you kind of have a split decision here from us. Kevin saying pull the trade for the upside. I'm saying stand pat. I like the depth on that one. Little more information coming in on this one. Leonardo also saying he has Dobbins, Hall, Robbie Anderson, so he's going to need wide receiver depth. I appreciate the feedback for sure. At that point,
Dobbins will come back. Hall will be more the end of the year. Robbie's is what it is. Like,
right, I'm not worried about
playing
Robbie
Anderson over Higgins and Jefferson anyway, or Deontay, right? So you can find something better than Robbie Anderson probably looking out on the waiver wire right now, or at least more consistent.
Correct. I like the fact that the Dobbins and Hall, at that point, that kind of pushes me over more to pull the trade on that. I get more upside. I've still got the depth, right? Like I'm sitting there trying to think about how I'm going to look at my flex type of play week in, week out. And I'm going to be pretty much having to roll out Jefferson, Higgins, Deontay Johnson every week as far as 2 wide receivers and a flex. But looking at Dobbins, Hall towards the back half of the season, I like those ones simply from the standpoint that's going to give me some more flexibility on my roster there as well. And, I can potentially just kind of take, Justin Jefferson's a set it and forget it wide receiver, and I can play the matchups between Higgins and Deontay Johnson there for my wide receiver 2. And then I can play the matchups there between Hall, Dobbins, and whichever one of those wide receivers I didn't start. So I think looking at this, I think I'm in. I think you brought me over to the trade yes side.
There you go. Make the trade. Best of luck, bud.
All righty. Last question here, then we're going to get into the next matchup here. Glenn, PPR flex, Dylan, Henderson, Marquise Hollywood Brown, rank them up.
Oof. Man.
Some of that depends too on what you need, right? Like if you need a ceiling play or floor play because you're where you're at on your matchup and where you're kind of projected and what your matchups look like. For a upside play, I'm going to play Marquise Hollywood Brown, then AJ Dillon, then Darrell Henderson. For a floor play, I'm probably going to play AJ Dillon, Darrell Henderson, then Marquise Brown.
Yeah, I think I'm going Marquise, Dillon, then Henderson. I think is what I'm going with. Now, Marquise and Dillon are close, very close in my opinion. But yeah, Brown gets the upside as kind of the clear number 1 there in Arizona right now.
I like it. All right, and I know that we've got a couple of more questions in there, and I'm going to get to those as soon as we get through this next matchup here. Let's go ahead and head out there to the Giants here. And Carolina Panthers, New York Giants. Giants favored by 2, over under in this one, 43.5. What are your thoughts here?
43.5. What an ugly total.
Yes.
I'm gonna take the over to start with, and kind of a surprising move here. And I think I'm going to take the Giants. I think I'm going to take the Giants by 3 and the over here. I just think that they got it's a culture change, right? I think they're going to ride the momentum off of beating Tennessee in week 1. They did a good job having Daniel Jones get the ball out of his hands quickly. Obviously, the use of Saquon, as we mentioned earlier, in kind of that rapid fire monkey knife fight edition that we just touched on. So I'm going to take the Giants in the over at home.
Okay. I like that call a lot because I've got it 24-21 Giants winning this thing. So that puts the Giants covering right there by the 3-point deal, the over being hit just barely on this one. But Carolina looked bad last week, right? Like they looked like a team that, like, from an offensive standpoint, I don't know why in the world every single route tree and route combination was an out route type of thing. Like you saw that, and it seemed like every read Baker had to make was an out route into the zone defense there. Yeah, I don't know why in the world, when a couple of big plays that they had, the Robbie Anderson deep touchdown pass was a deep slant over the middle on that one, a post route on that one. So I don't know why, you don't kind of go back to that more. So DJ Moore had a couple of good passes where he was doing some kind of slants and some dig curl type of routes on those things, catching the ball over the middle and making some things happen after the catch there. Again, Ben McAdoo and that offensive coordinator seemed lost on trying to figure out how in the world to get Christian McCaffrey the ball. You've got one of the most electric guys and in the game, and you can't figure out how to get him the ball. So I think that you're going to see the Carolina Panthers have gone back to the drawing board a little bit and figure out that they've got to get the ball in their playmakers' hands and put their guys in position to make some plays. So I think you will see some more points put up there. The prop that I saw on this one, Christian McCaffrey was a kind of a low ball as a 62.5 rushing yards. I'm going to take the over on that one. I think that you can easily see him get up into like the 75 to 80 rushing yards in this matchup here. Muted.
Sorry, guys. For my I'm taking Saquon over 77.5 rushing yards. So I think they're going to ride the success. This is the best way for the Giants to move the offense, right? You dink and dunk a little bit. You're able to play action maybe to just enough to keep the safeties honest, but then you're just trying to open up holes for Saquon. And he looked like a man on a mission. And for week one, the Giants seem to understand how to get the ball into their best player's hand better than Carolina seemed to understand how to get the ball into their best player's hand. So I'm going to say that trend continues, and I'm taking Saquon over 77.5 rushing yards.
I like it. Couple of comments coming in here. I'm thinking that says Hendricks, Kenny Walker not listed on the IR. No, he is not. From everything I've seen, it looks like they're expecting him to play a little bit.
Yep,
I don't think that you're going to see a massive workload for him. I think they're going to kind of bring him back in, and you'll see Rashad Penny definitely take the bulk of the carries there. Rashad Penny looking good last week on when he played the Broncos there as well. So I don't think he did anything to lose playing time there. And I think you'll see Kenneth Walker kind of work his way back in and get himself back into football shape in this game here. We already hit that one up here already. Glenn was saying thanks for the opinions on that one already. B Dubs on the YouTube. He has Hurts. Should he drop Jeff Wilson and pick up Trey Lance? His running backs are CMC, Fournette, Patterson, James Robinson, Brian Robinson. Thoughts on Lance rest of season? If you're not in a super flex, which I don't think there's any way in the world you're in a super flex if Trey Lance is still on the waiver wire there. I'm not going to be starting Trey Lance over Jalen Hurts in just about any matchup this year. Jalen Hurts looked good. One of the few quarterbacks out there that had a great fantasy week and didn't manage to throw a passing touchdown. And he has just as good of rushing upside as Trey Lance does. So you can pick him up if you want, but I'm not trying to drop Jeff Wilson at the moment to go pick up Trey Lance.
Yeah, early in the season, if you having the running back depth that you do, that is a luxury, and you need to keep that. So I'm keeping Jeff Wilson. I am not a Trey Lance believer at all. There is not a chance that I think he can do the things for fantasy that Jalen Hurts does. His absolute ceiling might be what Jalen Hurts did last week, right? Like 230 yards, a rushing touchdown, maybe a passing touchdown, which Hurts didn't have, but he also fed his star receiver for the tune of 144 yards, and managed to keep his tight end involved also. I'm not buying the Lance hype. And in single QB leagues, you run Hurts until his bye week, and then you just find whichever guy you need for that 1 week to kind of fill in, which could be a Jameis Winston. Hell, Jared Goff, if he's actually going to be able to keep these passing numbers up the way he did in week one and feed Amon-Ra St. Brown and Chark, and if Jameson Williams is back by then. So I'm going to let Trey Lance sit out there and keep the running back depth because Fournette's dinged up. McCaffrey could get dinged up at any time, right? He has been injury prone the last couple seasons. Patterson seems to do nothing but just score touchdowns for Atlanta. Like, it is just crazy how they've been able to unlock the potential that this guy was drafted with 8 years ago. James Robinson is clearly the between tackle guy in Jacksonville. So red zone, I think he's going to see more red zone opportunities, at least running the ball, than what ETN will. And Brian Robinson's a great stash because he had the number one job in Washington locked up until the unfortunate incident with him, getting shot in the attempted robbery of his car. But he's already doing he's doing drills off to the side at practice. Right. He can't practice with the team yet because they have him on the PUP list. But Robinson, I think, will be ready to go by by week 7 or 8, right? He will be back in football shape. We might see him a touch before then, but he will be back in form for the last bit of the season, which I think is great upside and health, which is always needed in that running back room. So I'm not doing it.
Yeah, I'm standing pat on that one as well. Hendrick saying the universe is telling me to trade for Hollywood Brown. Do it is what I would tell you. Glenn G saying he needs one more week to trust Hollywood. I mean, you can certainly take the week and see how that one looks, but yeah, I have no problem going out and acquiring Hollywood Brown. I think that you're going to see the Cardinals figure out how to get the ball in his hands a little bit more. The chemistry is there between him and Kyler. So I think you just saw them have a bad outing week 1 more so than anything.
Yeah, and it's just understanding expectations, right? Hollywood Brown's never going to be Devontae Adams type usage and production, right? You are hoping for, 6 or 7 catches is great. What you need him to break one. Like that's where the upside comes in. So you're getting Hollywood, and what he is he's a wide receiver 2 on your fantasy roster, potentially a flex play if you went wide receiver heavy a little bit earlier, and then came back around to fill in with Hollywood. So it's just understanding that. Like he won't be able to anchor your wide receiver portion of your fantasy team, but he's a nice high ceiling component in an Arizona offense that, from the looks of week 1, could be needing to throw their way out of a lot of holes because that defense looked bad against Kansas City.
Awful. Absolutely awful. All right, guys, I see that we've got some more comments and questions coming in here. We'll hit those up as soon as we get through this next matchup here. Patriots, Steelers. Patriots favored by 2, over under 40.5. Thoughts on this one?
Man, I'm going to take the Steelers at home. I think this is going to be, and I'm also taking the under. I think this is going to be a low-scoring affair. I think the Patriots defense will play a bit better against Pittsburgh than they did against Miami. This game will be close, but I'm going to take the Steelers to win outright, maybe something 21-20, 20-17, something like that. And I guess it can't be 21-20 because I'm also going to take the under. So, yeah. 20-18, something close, right? There's not going to be a team that blows away, but there's going to be a lot of hard hitting in this game as the Patriots make sure that Mitch Trubisky doesn't tee off on his receivers, and the Pittsburgh defense we saw did a pretty good job against Joe Burrow, especially in that second half, trying to keep everybody in check, especially after Higgins went out with the concussion.
Yeah. We've got this one different. I'm seeing this one being a 23-20 matchup. Patriots winning. It's very tough to beat to have Bill Belichick lose 2 games in a row. So I think he's going to try and get some things put together there. The Steelers, I think also losing TJ Watt on that one up front is going to hurt tremendously, and they're going to have probably a much harder time getting pressure on the quarterback than what we saw there in week 1 there. So I'm going to take the Patriots to cover this one. I'm going to take the over. One of the props that I really liked in this one, George Pickens over 28.5 receiving yards. I think that you'll see him hit that one probably even before halftime's over.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I have Hunter Henry under 26.5 receiving yards. It's not a real focal point of this Patriots team, right? They want to run the ball. They want to juice the clock. Jacoby Myers seems to be the apple of Mac Jones's eye here at the moment. I almost took his prop on over is like 47.5. I almost took the over on that one. But just to kind of change it up here a little bit, I'm going to take an under just to show everybody that we can take an under. We're not just playing overs. And Hunter Henry under 26.5. I could see him, 23 yards on 3 catches, and maybe he falls into the end zone.
Okay, I like it. A couple of more of these coming in. Chef LLA Chef over there on YouTube. Sorry, I'm butchering that one. Traded Terry McLaurin, GJ Clark, Chris Olave, Damian Pierce for Amon-Ra, Tony Pollard, Breece Hall, and Allen Robinson. Thoughts on that one?
I'm not quite sure what you're looking to accomplish. I mean, and that sounds really crass, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but normally you can kind of see where you're leaning or where you're trying to get better. I like Amon-Ra more than Terry McLaurin, so for me that's good. But I can see where people would argue on the other side. Olave, I think as the season goes on, is going to continue to be relevant. Dameon Pierce, it was only 1 week. Like, Dameon Pierce is a guy that I probably would have really liked to keep a part of, just because I think as the season goes on, he's going to have full control over the Houston backfield. Tony Pollard, it's okay. I think you're broke even. Like, I don't know that you're significantly better anywhere or significantly worse. Like, I think it's probably an even trade. It's just a matter of guys you like and guys that maybe you don't. So, sure.
This one I can kind of see simply from the standpoint that he definitely got a lot more depth at the running back position there. I think Amon-Ra, Terry McLaurin, I'm a bigger Amon-Ra fan than I am Terry McLaurin. So I can kind of see that one. DJ Chark, Allen Robinson, I think you very well may see them kind of break even towards the overall fantasy points this year. But I could see, kind of doing that one simply to try and get a little more depth at the running back position, where you take Dameon Pierce and you flip him to Tony Pollard and Breece Hall. And especially if you're a believer that Breece Hall will ultimately kind of win out the job as the season goes along there, I could potentially see that one playing out there. Kenneth on YouTube asking Zach Moss or Tony Pollard PPR. That must be a very, very deep league. What are your thoughts here on Zach Moss or Tony Pollard?
I'm taking Tony Pollard because he's part of a 2-part backfield, not a 3-part backfield. And while we saw Zach Moss more involved in the passing game in week 1 against the Rams, I am not convinced that that's going to continue through the season. So I would rather have Tony Pollard.
Yeah, I'm going to take Tony Pollard as well. He's also a little bit more electric than Zach Moss is, right? Zach Moss, a little bit more of of kind of a plotter, right? Like, doesn't necessarily have that higher end gear that we see Tony Pollard have there. And you very well may, with the Cooper rush, you very well may see a ton of check down passes needing to come out of that backfield to try and keep the ball moving on that one as well. So I'm going to go with Tony Pollard on that one too. All righty. I see some more questions in the chat there. We're going to go ahead and hit the next matchup. We'll come back to the questions here. Colts, Jaguars. Colts favored by 3.5. Over under on this one, 45. Thoughts here?
This game, I kind of think this game is completely dependent on Michael Pittman. Like, 3.5 after the way the Colts looked in week 1 seems like a big number to cover. So I'm going to take Jacksonville to cover. And I am going to say the under. I don't think we quite get to 45.
I like it. When I was doing the point breakdown on this one, I've got this one 21 to 24 in favor of the Colts. So the Colts winning right at 3, which means that the Jags cover by the hook. And when it's a push bet like that, as far as how I see the score going, I'm going to take the under on those ones. So even though I'm thinking it's going to be a push bet on that one, I favor the unders in those. So this one here, Indianapolis should have easily just taken care of the Texans, and they certainly didn't. Jacksonville showed a lot of fight in them this last week, and I think we continue to see that. So I think this is actually going to be a fairly decent matchup here, divisional type of matchup. And I do have a nice little prop that I liked in this one, and that was Trevor Lawrence under 247.5 passing yards.
Fair enough. I'm going to show faith in Travis Etienne. I know a lot of people were frustrated by the week 1 performance, although it was right there. He could have fallen into the end zone once or twice if he's able to just collect a couple of those passes. So going with that, I'm going to take Etienne over 20.5 receiving yards for this game. I think he's going to be used a little bit more and probably have a little bit more success than what they found week 1.
I like it. All righty, let's hit up some of these other comments and questions coming in here. Chef, he said he also traded Najee and Ken Walker for Javonte Williams and CEH. Yeah, that's a smash yes.
I like
Absolutely.
that one.
Yep.
I like that one a lot.
Yeah, big fan of that one. I think you got the best play. I think you got the certainly the best end of the deal on that one. So Hendricks is saying that you got a steal on that one, and Bill saying smash that one. So
absolutely consensus from the group, man.
Yes.
You got to know you did it right when everybody here is agreeing with you.
Yes, when we're saying that, the chat's all in agreement. Everybody's just saying, yep, that's a steal and a smash. You definitely pulled that one out right. Alrighty, guys, we're going to hit up the next matchup here. And I'm going to come right back where I got more comments coming in there. I see that. So we're going to hit that one up, and we'll come back and answer some more questions for y'all. Dolphins, Ravens. Ravens favored by 3.5. Over under on this one's 44.5. Thoughts on this matchup?
I'm going to take the Dolphins to cover, the over, and the Ravens on the money line.
Okay, that is a very specific call. I like it. I'm not quite as bullish as you are on that one. I think that we're going to see Baltimore win this one. I do think that they end up covering. I see this one as a 22-18 type of matchup here. A little bit of a defensive type of battle here. But I do think that we're going to see the under on this one. So one of the first ones that you and I have been very different on our opinions on here. But I do like a couple of props here on this one. The first one, when I was looking at it, I saw Cedric Wilson on the over 20.5 receiving yards. Absolutely love that one. Was getting ready to smash that one. I have seen some reports coming out that Cedric Wilson battled a little bit of a toe. He's questionable heading into this one. If he does not play, I would pivot on that one and say Chase Edmonds over 40.5 rushing yards is the next one I like in that one.
No, fair enough. And then the prop that I really liked on that one was Devin Duvernay over 27.5 receiving yards. I think we can see him get somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 receiving yards on 3, even if it's just 3 catches, right? The way that they're using him. So I like this prop. I think it's a little bit low. And not buying into the fact that Lamar can throw the ball. He may not be Josh Allen elite throwing the ball, but he can sling it a little bit. So I like the Duvernay over in this game.
I like it. All righty, let's go ahead and hit up a couple more questions. Hendricks, YouTube, PPR, Sutton, Henderson at my flex. He's leaning Sutton. I'm leaning Sutton. Absolutely, that's a smash.
I ain't leaning
Sutton.
Nothing. I'm jumping over there. Sutton.
Smash Sutton. Okay. Alrighty. Jim Bob has a question coming in there. Jackson or Russell Wilson PPR?
I'm going to take Lamar Jackson because of his legs. I think the Miami pass rush is going to get him scrambling a little bit. You could see him hit a deep one, possibly to Duvernay, some Mark Andrews action. But I think Lamar Jackson's going to be running a little bit more this game than what we saw in week 1. And that rushing upside makes me have him ranked over Russell Wilson this week.
Yeah, I had these two extremely close in my ranks, but I did have Lamar just ahead of Russell Wilson. So I think you're good either way, but I'm gonna go with Lamar Jackson to start over Russell on that one. All righty, guys, I like it. I do see some more comments. We'll get to those right after this one. Let's go ahead, and we got another rapid fire here for the afternoon slate. 2.5 time prize on this one. And guys, if you head over to Monkey Knife Fight, put in the promo code GOBFF. You can get a 100% deposit match on deposits up to $100 for first-time depositors there. Your rapid fire, Cooper Kupp versus Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray getting 1.5 point bonus. Who you taking in that matchup?
I'm taking Kyler in this one. I think the Rams are going to adjust, and I think they're going to get a lead early, and they're going to be able to kind of run the ball out, even though that's not necessarily their style. But they're not going to have to drop back and Stafford throw it 45 times a game. I think he might only throw it like 32, 35 times a game, somewhere in that neighborhood. So I like Kyler over Cooper Kupp as they try and figure out the rest of this offense. We know Kupp is good, but what can Allen do? What are we going to be able to do with Cam Akers? Tyler Higbee, right? Is he going to remain relevant after all those catches? Or opportunities in week 1. So I like Murray. And then I'm jumping right in because it piggybacks off of one another. I'm taking Russell Wilson over Stafford again, because I think the Rams are going to have this game in control fairly early, and they're just going to run the ball and take the air out of it.
I agree with that. I've got Murray. I've got Wilson in this one here as well. I like that one for very much the same reason. I think that you're going to see that Atlanta and Rams game get a little bit lopsided and actually a little bit lower scoring out there because it's so lopsided. And the fact that I think that you're going to see Russell Wilson and the Broncos want to very much bounce back in this one. Same thing with Kyler, and those Cardinals are going to have to put up a lot of points to be able to try and win games there. So I like it. Again, guys, you can play along with us over at Monkey Knife Fight. And if you sign up, put in the promo code GOBFF, you get a 100% deposit match on first-time deposits up to $100. Go ahead and head over there and give it a shot and join us playing this one. Alrighty, a couple more questions coming in. Jim Bob on YouTube, Rachaad White, running back Tampa. He has some interesting potential there, but more so if Leonard Fournette misses time on this one. If Leonard Fournette is healthy and going into this game, I'm not necessarily looking to go with Rachaad White on that one.
Yeah, I don't like Rachaad White this week, even if Fournette doesn't go. I think the Saints, especially the last 3-4 seasons, have been very good against the run. I don't see that changing. Tampa Bay's offensive line has their own struggles, so it's not like they're opening up massive holes for Rachaad White to kind of gash. And there's still the issue of pass protection, right? There's no guarantee that Rachaad White would actually be on the field that much. I think it's still more of a Gio game if Fournette doesn't go, because Gio's better in pass pro, trying to keep Tom Brady upright. So I like him in Dynasty. Like, it's not that the kid doesn't have talent and that we're going to find use out of him at one point in time, but I don't think it's going to be here in week 2.
No, and I think you'll see value for Rachaad White, especially down the stretch and towards the back half of this season, which is what we typically see with a lot of rookies, right? It takes some time for them to come to adjust the game, but I think you're absolutely right. Like, I don't see the Buccaneers really rolling out a rookie running back, still trying to figure out some of the pass pro, still trying to really figure out the speed of the game there a little bit to protect Tom Brady with that banged up interior line on this one. So I think, Dynasty, absolutely. Love the Rachaad White play there. Like Rachaad White in the back half of the season. Not necessarily a big fan in this game here, even if Leonard Fournette misses time. But and that's a tough matchup, right? The Saints, the Bucs, they play each other incredibly tough. It's usually a lower scoring game, and it's a lot more of a defensive slugfest that we've seen over the last few years than necessarily offensive firepower in this one. Hendricks on YouTube is asking if you had to choose between ETN and Brees, who do you go with? I go with ETN. Not much of a question for me.
Yeah, I think I go ETN as well. And I think a lot of that's offensive philosophy. You're going to have Trevor Lawrence go back and sling it a little bit more. So ETN has that PPR upside. The Jets under Robert Saleh and just kind of that philosophy coming from San Francisco and what he's going to want to do. Brees is not going to see a whole heck of a lot of passing work. That's not what his specialty is. Michael Carter, on the other hand, was the pass catching specialist while playing at North Carolina with Javonte Williams. So I think PPR league, ETN, if it's a standard league by chance, then go Brees Hall, and I understand that move.
Yep. I like it. We got Glenn saying he also votes for ETN on that one. Hendrick saying a guy in his league owns both of them, and he just doesn't know how to approach that. So I guess Hendricks at that point is the question: how do you try and acquire one of those guys? As far as a trade or who you should target. At that point, I'm still probably going to try and go out and target ETN, especially if there's a half point or a PPR component to it. I think that you're going to see ETN wildly outscore Brees Hall when this thing's all said and done at the end of the season. So not going to surprise me to see ETN be a upper end RB1 and or RB2. I'm sorry, and going to surprise me if Brees Hall kind of I see him as a top 30 type of back. Just kind of how I see that one there. So, alrighty, again, guys, if you've got any questions, comments, anything like that, throw them out there in the chat. Love talking, love interacting with y'all and getting those questions answered. Let's go ahead and head to our next matchup here. Falcons, Rams favored by 10, over under on this one, 46.5. Thoughts on this matchup?
I know I said this game was going to get out of control, and I do mean that for the most part, but I think the Falcons find a way to backdoor cover this game. I'm not convinced with the way the Rams played that they're just going to be able to run away and hide as much as they're going to try to. But they are going to try and take the air out of the ball. As I said earlier, I stand by that. So I like the Falcons with the backdoor cover late, and I'm going to take the over in this game. I think Marcus Mariota is going to be able to give this Rams defense some fits with his legs, as we saw Josh Allen do specifically in the second half of that game when the Bills really pulled away. And then all of this, and because the Rams get the lead earlier and try and take the air out, I have Matt Stafford under 277.5 passing yards in this game.
I like that one. I'm not as bullish on the Falcons as you are. I see this being a very, very low-scoring affair. So I've got this one 24-13 in favor of the Rams. One of the props that I really like, though, I do like Kyle Pitts on over 3.5 receptions in this one.
I hope so. My home team needs that, Derek.
Absolutely. So I think that you'll see it, right? He had targets out there. Again, right, this is one of those that the Falcons are going to have to get him involved and have to bring him along in order for them to kind of, stand a chance on this one. And with him being that huge body, game-breaking type of talent, you've got to get the ball in his hands and let him try and make some maneuvers and make some moves here for you to try and keep this one close. So I think they're going to – oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, do you think they try and put Pitts – not that he is – Gabe Davis necessarily, but in kind of some of those route combinations where we saw Davis get behind the defense there in the first half, opening the season.
Yeah, it's not going to necessarily surprise me if you see it where, going back to some old route concepts here, almost see him run a 6-shooter type of thing. Have him kind of go over the middle, run that curl route, run a slant, get him kind of worked in, and so that the safeties start kind of creeping up there, looking at that, and then you kind of see a almost stop and go type of route, up and over type of thing. So wouldn't surprise me if you see him have a very long play, very long reception in this one. But I think that you are going to see the Falcons kind of pepper him with targets, and it's not going to surprise me for him to see 7-8 targets in this one and him come down with at least half of those. So I like the Kyle Pitts over on the receptions here. All righty, another question coming in here. Glenn on YouTube, thoughts on Austin Eckler? The dude's good at football. The Chargers seem to be using him differently than what we've seen in the past. But I think that could just be a little bit of how the season has started and kind of game specific things there. But I think he'll still be good for you in a PPR standpoint, but I don't think that you're going to see him necessarily be able to return that touchdown upside that he had last year.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people drafted him kind of as a top 3, maybe 4 running back. I think more realistically, he's probably a top 8 to 10 running back if we redid all of that today. So you still want him. Again, it's just managing expectations. He's not going to have 19 touchdowns like he had last year. So you need to manage that a little bit better. Now, if you're looking to acquire him, now's just as good of a time as any, right? He hasn't found the end zone the first 2 weeks. People are a little down on Austin Eckler. You kind of start see the rumblings or whatever. So if you're able to get your hands on him, now's kind of the time to do that, where his usage has been down a little bit and people are maybe doubting his ability. So either, yes, you keep him and you have faith. It's just not going to be top 3 running back, week in and week out like it was last year, or try and acquire him. And it's you're not overpaying, right? Like you want it fair to cheap, right? That's where you're looking for Austin Eckler, the fair to cheap side, not necessarily the, appropriate to high end value that a lot of people would be asking for him last year.
Right. I mean, that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to try and buy the dip, so to speak, on that one, and looking to try and buy the fact that he's not as involved as we've seen in the past. The fact that they seemed very content to run out Sony Michel on a lot of those short yardage type of deals and a lot of the goal line type of work there.
Yeah, and Josh Kelly, right? We've seen more Josh Kelly this first 2 weeks than what I ever thought we would see.
Yep.
And part of it is it's getting used to the season. They understand that they want their star players healthy. And so as they're getting into these offensive rhythms, the way Eckler looks in week, 5 through 10 is going to be completely different than the way he looked here in weeks 1 and 2 as they're starting to come up with their offensive identity for the season.
I would agree with that. Hendrick saying that he thinks he's being safe for later in the season. He's going to ride it out with him and hope he turns into a league winner near the end. That is absolutely one way to look at that one. And he drafted him over Justin Jefferson. That's a tough one, right? Like it all comes down to how you're doing draft strategy at that point. Wouldn't have faulted anybody for drafting Austin Eckler over Justin Jefferson. Just from the scarcity of the running back position there, whereas wide receiver being so deep. Alrighty, let's go ahead and head to our next matchup here. We got the Seahawks and the Niners. Niners favored by 8.5, over under on this one, 41. What are your thoughts here?
I think the Seahawks cover this. I don't see where the Niners are offensively dominant enough to win and cover 8.5. I'm not buying that. Part of it's because I'm not the believer in Trey Lance, right? Now, I think this game's going to be a little bit closer, as most of these games between the Seahawks and the Niners are. I like the under the 41.5. I think this is a close affair. So Seahawks and the under, I guess, is what I'm going with. But Niners, I'll take the Niners on the money line. I would believe that.
Okay. Again, we see this one just a little different here. I'm going to take the over on this one, and I'm going to take it 27-17 in favor of the Niners here. I do think that the Seahawks are going to have a little bit harder time with this one. The Niners looked fairly good against the run, and I get it. Week 1 against the Bears, they were playing in that monsoon bowl, and the ground was muddy, it was sloppy, it was necessarily tough to get offensive going on that one. So I could see a lot of that, but I did see them do a fairly good job being able to address it. And I think that you'll see them do a good job kind of stopping the run on this one. Not necessarily going to see a whole lot of that. And I just don't believe in Geno Smith as much as you're out on Trey Lance. I am probably more out on Geno Smith in the Seattle Seahawks, offense. And Geno Smith trying to take the ball down the field 4 or 5 yards a time on a target there. Just, I don't see it happening. And I see the San Francisco defense being able to stop some things there and being able to do that there too. So I've got the Niners covering the over, and I actually like the Trey Lance over on his passing yards this week. The over is 187.5 on this one. I think that in today's NFL, and with Kyle Shanahan back there scripting plays and scheming that up, I think he's going to figure out a way for Trey Lance to get to 200 passing yards on this one.
Fair enough. I like an over as a player prop for this game as well, but this one I found was just so damn juicy I couldn't help myself. Rashad Penny over 7.5 receiving yards. Like it. And sure, I could be wrong, but 7.5 is just such an easy number to get to. So I'm going to throw that one down there and take Rashad Penny over 7.5.
I like it. That is a good one. A little fun one there. I could see that one. Glenn G saying his tight end sleeper pick, Tyler Conklin. Absolutely. We've been saying that one for a couple of weeks before the season started, that he was a guy that you needed to be looking at and you needed to have flagged for a late round tight end, waiver wire type of tight end.
Yep, he caught the late touchdown last week, which helped him kind of pay it off. I think he gets even better when Zach Wilson comes back.
Yep.
So if you can if you can grab him now when Flacco's there, we're not really sure what, Joe Flacco's doing, so be it. But once Zach Wilson comes back, I like Tyler Conklin even more. And if I don't have one of the, premier tight ends, he is absolutely a guy that him, Logan Thomas, and really not after this week, but what would have been Gerald Everett, it would have fallen in that class pre first 2 games of the season for him. All those guys would have been great options. So Tyler Conklin's great. I think Hayden Hurst is going to see a lot of run too. He's on a ton of waiver wires. I think Joe Burrow likes the fact that he's more of an explosive tight end. He's not just kind of a lumbering, big-bodied tight end like he had in CJ Uzomah last year. So I think that helps on that side as well. So I like Conklin, but there are a couple really good sleeper tight ends that if you're able to navigate the minefield of, hitting the waiver wire every week, you could come up with some really good outcomes with these guys.
Absolutely. And in fact, in that article, Battleship Tight End that we have on the website there, talks about the fact that you can stream your way to fantasy glory in the tight end position there. And in fact, last year, had you played the waiver wire and the streaming tight end right, you could have put up more points out of your tight end position by week 12 than Travis Kelce had over the entire year playing tight end. So it's all there in the article on the website, goodoldboysff.com. You can check it out there. Lots of fun there. Jim Bob asks if Allen Lazard plays, should I put him in?
I guess question number 1 would be over who?
Yes.
I will follow that up with saying, I think Allen Lazard will see 11 plus targets this week. Big number, right? I think his target share is going to be extremely healthy. I don't think Aaron Rodgers wants to trust these rookie receivers. He wants a veteran guy who knows him in there. So if Lazard is cleared and he plays, I think you see 11 targets out of Allen Lazard. And in PPR matches over Bateman, yes. Aaron Rodgers loves to throw the ball. The Baltimore Ravens really don't. So especially against Miami, I'd play Lazard over Bateman. And I think I'd be okay with that. I think Lazard sees more targets. I think his opportunity for touchdown is much higher. His quarterback likes to throw the ball a bit more. So if Lazard can, and he's fast enough, right? We've seen him get behind the defense before. Bateman is more of a possession style receiver, doesn't necessarily have the breakaway speed. So I think Lazard has a much higher upside than Bateman. And realistically, I think I'd argue with a lot of people that Lazard's actually a safer floor this week also.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I'm the same way. Bateman likely will see a lot of Xavier Howard on Sunday here. Not a big fan of that matchup at all. Allen Lazard, that's a smash move. And Jim Bob saying thanks, he's in. All right, good stuff there. Let's go ahead and head to our next matchup. Bengals, Cowboys. Bengals favored by 7, over under in this one, 41.5. Thoughts on this one?
Bengals. I'm gonna take the under because I don't think the Cowboys can keep up and score, but I think it's the Bengals covering, and I don't even know that it's that close to the 7. I think they could be, 13 to 20 point win here, like big win here for the Bengals. Anything besides field goals, so they don't have to kick those. And the Cowboys are just going to struggle. So with all that said, I think Joe Mixon's going to go rough shot against the Cowboys here. I'm sure the Cowboys and their pass rush is so worried about Joe Burrow and everything else. Look for a couple big draw plays this game out of Joe Mixon, right? Let the pass rush get up the field a little bit, and then you see Mixon hit that hole and just scamper up the field for 15, 20 yards at a whack. So I like Mixon over 72.5 this game. I also like a Joe Mixon anytime touchdown this game. I think this is going to be damn near over by halftime. If not early third quarter, I think Cincinnati just pulls away and hides.
Yeah, I think that this one, you may see it a little bit close to start the game, but it's not going to finish close. And I think this is going to be one of those that you see Cincinnati 20-13 type of thing, if not, wider margin than that. That being the case, I got Joe Burrow on under 269.5 on the passing yards. I think that you're going to see them not necessarily, take the bear out of the ball, run the clock a lot of this one. So I've got Cincinnati and the under in this one. Also liking the Joe Burrow under 269.5 passing yards here. Alrighty. And again, guys, if you have any other questions, comments, anything like that, throw them in the chat. Let's get those talked about and get you guys rocking and
Absolutely.
rolling.
Throw in the chat, and please like, subscribe. We are so close to hitting the 1,000 subscription milestone, right, Derek? We're inching our way there, so we appreciate all of it, and any type of positive feedback there is always a good thing for us, as we're just kind of a lowly independent podcasting group that do this for the fun and for the fans here. So please like and subscribe, and it would be a big help to us.
Absolutely right. Independent podcast that we give all the content away for free. We don't charge anything. Don't put anything behind a paywall. Just ask that y'all help support us on some of those places where we can monetize without necessarily charging any of y'all out there listening or watching any of that stuff. All right, let's go ahead and head to our next matchup here. Texans, Broncos. Broncos favored by 10, over under 46. Thoughts on this one?
This might be hometown bias. I think the Broncos cover the 10 here. I think they learned some things. I think obviously being at home is a lot easier than playing in Seattle, where it's pretty difficult to play there in Seattle. Obviously, the emotions of coming back home. I'm not expecting both of the Denver running backs to fumble on the 2-yard line this game. And the Texans didn't look all that great against the Colts, just as much as the Colts didn't look very good against the Texans. So I like the Broncos to cover the 10, and I'm going to say under. I think the Broncos defense does a good enough job with Houston that we don't quite get to the 46.
Yeah, I see this one playing out like 24-13 Denver when this thing's all said and done. And I don't see it, really kind of coming through there. I think we are going to see a healthy dose, though, of Russell Wilson to start on this one. And we're going to see him kind of blow by that 238.5 passing yards fairly quickly in this one. And in the fourth quarter, you're just going to see that kind of salted away by the running back core there. But I do think that we're going to see Russell Wilson get that over on that 238.5 on the passing yards.
No, I like that. And I actually kind of piggybacked off of that unintentionally, because I took a Cortland Sutton anytime touchdown at plus 125.
I like it. I like it a lot. All righty. Another question coming in here. Glenn on YouTube asking Colts defense, Giants defense. The Colts defense on paper is the better unit. The Giants, I think, probably have the juicier matchup there.
What's on your waiver wire?
Yeah.
I don't know that I like either one of them this week. The Colts play terribly in Jacksonville. They really just do. And as much as the Giants did a good job shutting down Tennessee this week, and I know that we said we like Saquon and them kind of figuring out, Carolina's just explosive enough to really cause issues for defenses. So I think I'd be looking at the waiver wire and seeing if there's anything out there that I might like just a little bit better.
Right. Like I'm not gonna lie, I'd rather play the I'd rather play some of these other matchups out there for sure on some of those. I'm just trying to look through some of the matchups that we went through earlier that potentially could be out there.
There's Jim Bob. Browns might be out there. Browns or Bengals. I like the Bengals because they're going up against a backup quarterback, right? Like it's just kind of that juicy matchup. I think the Browns will do well against the Jets as well. So any one of those Ohio teams for their defense, I'd be okay with that. I think, let's see here. I think Green Bay's defense, if that's out there. What's another one that we like here, Derek?
I like that Cowboys call. I liked I really like that Browns call. I do think that you could see some decent ones there. I wouldn't mind necessarily playing the Detroit they should be out there. While that should be a bit of a higher scoring one, I think that you're going to see Detroit get some turnovers in that one there, and that could get you some points on that one there.
And if there's garbage on your waiver wire and you don't like it, take the Colts.
Yeah, I don't even mind. Like the Ravens defense or the Dolphins defense might be out there as well. I've seen the Dolphins defense in a fair bit. I wouldn't mind that one either.
There's just so I am totally against carrying two defenses on a fantasy roster. Like
yes.
It just goes against everything I stand for. But if the Dolphins defense is out there and you are a person who likes to carry two defenses, so you have one, the Dolphins schedule does get better here, kind of in the middle of the season. So it is a kind of an early stash, I guess. But typically these defenses, you're talking 4 to 7 points anyway. So it's not worth carrying two.
Right. Very tough to do that one. All righty, let's go ahead and head to our next matchup here. We've got the Cardinals, Raiders. Raiders favored by 5.5 and over under 51.5 in this one.
I'm taking the Raiders at home. We've been talking about how good we think this AFC West division is. We saw the Chiefs kind of lay it to the Cardinals last week. I think the Raiders can do something kind of similar at home. We're going to see a lot of Devontae Adams. I think Derek Carr is going to be much more efficient this game and not have the 3 interceptions. And you'll be able to kind of see what this offense should look like as opposed to last week when they were kind of scrambling a little bit. So I like the Raiders. Yeah, I'm going to take the Raiders to cover, and I'm going to say the under. I don't know that they get to 52. 48 to 50 sounds about right to me. So Raiders and the under.
Right. I like it. So this one here, I see the Cardinals actually covering this one. I see this being a 3-point game when it's all said and done, 27-24 in favor of Las Vegas. So Cardinals cover, Vegas on the money line, and the under. And it's the under by the hook. Like I see this one being really close to that one there. As far as a prop I really like on this one, Derek Carr under 286.5 passing yards on this one. While we've seen Derek Carr come out and just throw the ball constantly, I think that you're going to see the Raiders try and run the ball a little bit more so than what we saw last week out there as well. Not necessarily that bullish on Josh Jacobs, but I do think that we're seeing probably a little bit more balanced attack here. And the fact that I think that we're going to see the Raiders not necessarily have to try and throw the ball and go lights out and really try and keep pace on the offensive side of things to put that one up. So I'm calling for the under 286.5 on Derek Carr.
No, fair enough. I'm going to go with the other team there. I think Zach Ertz is under 43.5. I think that's a big number for Zach Ertz. Like I like him in that kind of 30 to 40 yard range, used in the red zone a little bit, but in between the 20s, I like Kyler to use some of his other weapons. Obviously, Connor is still a major factor there as they continue to get him going. So Zach Ertz under 43.5. I
like it. Couple other comments, questions coming in here. So Jim Bob saying he streams defense each week. That's the way to do it. Glenn G, I try and stream defense, but my league mates do the same. Slim pickings.
If that's the case, then go with the Colts.
Yep.
Right. If it's slim, go with the Colts. I think the Jaguars are less likely to have some monster scoring output, just because they don't have the star power behind them, as opposed to what Carolina could do. So going back to your first question, Glenn, with that being the case, go with the Colts.
Okay. And Glenn, something else that you can try out there, if everybody's streaming defense in your league and it's slim pickings out there, something that you can do as well, right? Like if you have to type of thing. And this is the only time that I sign off on carrying two defenses on a roster. But if you are playing it to the point where you're streaming defenses each week, look ahead 1 week on the matchups there. So, if there's a juicy matchup on a team that's on the waiver wire this week, but you know for certain that they're the team that you want to stream the following week, pick them up a week early, and you're just kind of rotating that thing through and along that way. That's kind of how you can play the waiver wire and still stream defenses that way. But you have to have your positions kind of locked in there in order to do that if you're going to tie up those two roster positions there. So that's kind of one of the ways that I found to do that if you are in very, very tight leagues like that, but not necessarily in every league type of situation, just super tight leagues if I need that kind of if I need that kind of separation because of a defense, special teams. So all right, let's hit up our next matchup here. Bears, Packers favored by 10, over under 41.5. Thoughts on this one? You got that mute button.
I'm terrible with that. The Packers by 10 scares me a little bit. Like, I just didn't see enough offensive rhythm out of them to be able to sign off that, the Packers are going to be able to win by 10 and have a 41 total. I mean, so I guess 20-10, 23-13, something like that. So I think the Packers win, but I think the Bears keep it closer than the 10 points. Just between the way the defense played against the Niners, we know the Bears are going to want to try and run the ball and shorten the game here a little bit. So Bears cover under and Packers money line.
I like it. I'm there with you on the Packers money line, Bears cover on that one, but I do think that you're going to see an over, and it's barely. Like, I don't feel great about this one. I do see it being like a 24-18 in favor of the Packers on this one here, which puts you right at 42. So it's by like that half point type of thing. So not super, super confident on that one there, but I'm going to call for the Packers or the Bears to cover and the over. As far as a prop I really like on this one, I've got David Montgomery 42.5 rushing yards, and I'll take the over on that one.
No, fair enough. Same team, same side of the ball. I got Darnell Mooney over 47.5. I think he bounces back from a poor week one in the monsoon. Get him in Lambeau prime time. I think Mooney's going to be able to show out here a little bit. So I think he gets over 50 with the tutty this week.
I like it. I like it a lot. So Glenn's saying that's why I picked up the Giants defense week 3 against Dallas, week 4 against Chicago. I like it. I like that one there. So just kind of getting ahead of that a little bit there. Week 2, you'll start Colts. Absolutely. Jim Bob asking tight end Robert Tonyan. What are your thoughts here?
I like Tonyan. I think that he may not be the most consistent tight end. I think someone comparable to Bobby Tonyan would be Logan Thomas for the Commanders. I think Logan Thomas probably has a safer floor. You're going to see consistently, you'll probably see 6 targets head to Logan Thomas. Tonyan's going to have some weeks where he sees 3 or 4 targets, and then he's going to break out, and you're going to see him in a crazy game where he has 6 or 7, and one of them's a deep play. So I don't mind Bobby Tonyan, especially because we don't really know what this Packers offense is doing yet. But he's not a set it and forget it tight end. He's just another guy as far as who you're streaming based off of matchups and what you're trying to fill in with.
Absolutely. So, Kevin, that's going to take us down here to Flex Fantasy. So let's talk a little bit about Flex Fantasy. So Flex Fantasy, if you're looking for a fun, new, and unique way to play fantasy football, you got to check out Flex Fantasy, the best way to challenge people not in your league. You got a disagreement among your friends or coworkers about who's got the better fantasy football team? Settle the debate with Flex Fantasy. You can find them at flex.fan/goodoldboysff. That's FLEX.fan/GOODOLDBOYSFF, and check that out there. That one always fires me up right there. So let's go ahead and head on into the arena for Flex Fantasy here. We're going to pick a matchup to kind of break down, dissect here real quick, and rock and roll that one. So let's go ahead and head on in here. We're just going to kind of pick one at random tonight. You know what? Here's looks like a good one. We got Ace Dubs versus Trope Killer's team. And the matchup in this one in a best ball style format, you got Lamar versus Josh Allen, Javonte Williams, Joe Mixon, James Cook, Alvin Kamara, Jamar Chase, Amari Cooper, AJ Brown, Brandon Cooks, Firemouth versus Kittle, Dobbins versus Johnson, Drake London versus Josh Jacobs, Micah Parsons versus Roquan Smith, Bass versus Carlson, the Saints defense versus the Chargers defense there. Thoughts on that matchup there?
Sorry, I'm going through and analyzing this just a little bit. I think Mixon, Javonte I think the James Cook thing. Can you scroll down there just a little bit, see what we have? Because I don't think James Cook is going to make the best ball play. You got Edmonds there. You got Tyler Lockett as a possibility. Mike Davis is going to be out. Okay. When I think it's all said and done, I like Josh Allen just a little bit more than Lamar Jackson. Cooper Kupp, wide receivers. Actually, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go with Ake Dub's team. I think they're going to pull the upset here. I think just as far as skill position goes, there's a little bit more high upside here.
Yeah.
Tyler Bass, we know that Saints-Buccaneers game is going to be a low-scoring defensive battle. I think I'm gonna take Dub's team here to pull the upset. I like this one just a touch more.
I like it. All righty, let's go ahead and head back to the arena here. We're gonna pick one more here, and we're gonna head over to the Monday night games and check those ones out. But let's go ahead and I'm just trying to look for one that we haven't necessarily done before. And guys, you can head over here and challenge us. We've got some open challenges. Right there is our one of our teams, Dennington 1-2's team. So you can check that one out and play that one here. Let's go ahead and pick. Let's see here. Oh, let's see here. Trying to make sure we don't hit one. There we go. There's one that we didn't do on the Tuesday show. Alrighty, so we've got Ace Dubs teams versus Christie's Rads team. It's a best ball format here again. You got Lamar Jackson versus Justin Fields, Javonte Williams versus Najee Harris, Chase Edmonds versus Devontae Adams, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase, Devin Singletary, Pratt Firemouth, Breece Hall, Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen, Tyler Lockett, George Kittle, Tyler Bass, Nick Folk, the Saints defense versus the Bucks defense. And then bench-wise, a little bit of a short bench there for Christy Rad's team.
I think I'm going to take Dub's team again.
Yeah.
I think it's the Justin Fields thing that kind of scares me off a little bit, right? Like Najee Harris is nursing that injury, and then everybody's kind of got split field backs. I like Devontae Adams a little bit more than I like AJ Brown this week. Chase over DK. Yeah, I think overall I like Dub's team just a touch more.
I like it a touch bit more there as well. I also like it from the standpoint kind of looking down here at some of that. While it's a lot more of a IDP type of thing there, I think that they're going to have more usable pieces there on the bench there as well to potentially give them an upside start. So I'm going to take Ace Dub's team on that one. And then let's hit one more. We're going to go all the way down here to the bottom. And then let's take that one. I think is the same matchup all the way across the board. So let's pick this one right here. Peyton Pork versus Trope Killer's team. The matchup. It's head-to-head, so straight up here. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, DeAndre Swift, Joe Mixon, Saquon Barkley, Alvin Kamara, T. Higgins, Amari Cooper, Michael Pittman, Brandon Cooks, Schultz, Kittle, Zeke, Dobbins, Harris, Jacobs, Fred Warner versus Roquan Smith, Nick Folk, Nick Carlson, Tampa Bay defense, Chargers defense. I think for me, I lean towards the paid-in Porks team on this one.
Yeah, I'd agree. I like the running back combination with Swift and Barkley. Pittman, as long as he's healthy, right? Higgins coming back for the concussion. But yeah, I think overall, Peyton Pork's team, I think they're going to, I guess, come up with the upset here, right? The projected points is a little off here at the moment, but I do think that finds a way to kind of balance itself out because I don't think Kamara's putting up 22 and 22.6 this week.
No, I don't think Kamara's putting up that kind of point total. We'll see if George Kittle plays this week, and J.K. Dobbins. We'll see if he plays this week here as well. So there's a lot of question marks on this Trop Killa's team on what they're going to potentially do out there, and where they may have to fill some things in there. So while there's some question marks on Peyton Pork's team, I like the upside there, and I like the overall shot there. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and go with Peyton Pork's team on that one there as well. So guys, again, that's Flex Fantasy. If you're looking for a way to settle your debates, your fantasy football debates on the gridiron, but you're not necessarily on the same league with somebody, you can hop in here, play Flex Fantasy, free to sign up. You can play some of those things and pick the matchups. They have a lot of free pick'ems on that one there as well. You can challenge us on there as well. Again, that's flex.fan/goodoldboysff. That's FLEX.FAN/GOODOLDBOYSFF. And check that one out, and you can come challenge us over there. Always a lot of fun, and we're looking very much forward to the Tournament of Champions going on here in a couple of weeks over there on Flex Fantasy as well. I'll be sure to check that one out. All right, a couple of questions here before we get to the Monday night games. Who to start at running backs and flex position has Jeff Wilson, David Montgomery, Rashad Penny, Chase Claypool. So far, he has Monty and Jeff Wilson in those slots. I like the Monty play on this one. I think he's going to have a good game. I think you'll see Jeff Wilson get some play there, but it also wouldn't surprise me to see Rashad Penny go that one. Chase Claypool is on the bench for me.
Yeah, I would agree. Claypool's on the bench. Monty and Williams. I think you're okay with Monty and Will. I think you're okay with Monty and Wilson here. I think that Penny could splash, but is that what I want to do? No, I think I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go Monty and Penny. I really am concerned about Debo in the backfield here in San Francisco and all this Jeff Wilson hype. It's San Francisco. We know it's going to be split off a bit more. I think Penny has the opportunity to really try and keep Kenneth Walker at bay. Monty, I think, is going to have a good game in prime time here. So, yeah, I'm going to go Penny and Monty is where I'm going to lean.
Yeah, I like that. I will go with Penny and Monty on that one there as well. So, very cool. And as far as we had Fabian asking what website is that, Fabian, that is Flex Fantasy. I'd actually drop the link down there in the chat for you. You can also find the link in the description down on the YouTube there as well. It's FLEX.FAN/GOODOLDBOYSFF. And you click that sign up. Come challenge us, come play on that one. Can you do a two-man league on there? It's more, the better way to think about it would be more of a week-to-week type of thing, right? You can take your existing lineup on Sleeper and some of these other platforms, load them up there, and then you can challenge people in a head-to-head matchup or a best ball matchup on there. So not necessarily like a straight-up two-man league on there where it's season-long type of thing, but it's a two-man league on there that you could literally take, you and your buddy each pick up one of your fantasy rosters and pit them up against each other, and you guys can play each other all season long that way on there as well. Like Jokes on You over on Twitch is asking, are you guys taking questions about lineups? Absolutely. we are. Absolutely love talking and interacting with folks and helping them get everything they need to rock and roll with as far as the fantasy lineups on there, and help you guys get your everything set, ready to go for your weekend, and to try and win those cashes and trophies out there. Kevin, we got 2 Monday night games we still got to hit up here. Let's go ahead and head right over there. Monday night, Titans, Bills favored by 10, over under 48. Thoughts on this one?
Bills and over. That offense just looks like they're in midseason form already. The Titans really kind of struggled to slow down the Giants here a little bit. So I like the Bills. I like the Bills, and I like the over in this one.
I like the Bills as well. I've got this, like a 27-17 type of matchup there, which is going to bring it on just the underside of things. I do think that this is going to be a fun game if you're a Bills fan, and a not very fun game if you're a Titans fan in this one. Is this the game that we can see Derrick Henry kind of get some of that, fun back on this one? I don't know if it's going to be the case. And IP2, I see you in this one, and you're now blocked on the chat there. Thanks for not coming back. Alrighty, so the that being the case there, I've got the Bills. I've got the under on this one. I do like the prop. I'd like Treylon Burks over 28.5 receiving yards.
Yeah. Let's see here. Sorry, I lost my notes. Here we go. For this one, as I'm stalling, Dawson Knox, that's what I had. I had Dawson Knox anytime touchdown, plus 145. So I like the odds on that. Something a little different, right? As he was really gearing in towards Diggs and Diggs and Gabe Davis there in that first week. I think Dawson Knox sneaks in here with a touchdown.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me on that one. All right, another question coming in there. Nitin on YouTube asking, would you guys trade DK for Chark and Higgins? It's a 12-man PPR. I probably would. I probably would take the extra depth there. I don't know that what you lose out on DK. I don't think there's much of a step off between DK and T. Higgins on this one. And DJ Chark gives me some upside that I like.
So you're taking the DK side?
Oh, it's DK and Chark for Higgins. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. I thought it was DK for Chark and Higgins. Yeah. I don't know that I would. I'd stand pat on that one.
Yeah, I think it's too early in the season to do that. I think you like the appeal of Higgins. It's probably a little bit more high-profile offense. But DJ Chark, don't sleep on the guy, right? Don't sleep on DJ Chark. He's the outside big play threat for the Lions offense here at the moment until Jameson Williams comes back. And Detroit really does like what Chark has done. He's flashed before, fought through injuries here the last couple seasons. So I think I'm sitting for now. Like only because we're just through week 1, we're just getting into week 2. And I think I'm just going to sit tight and have the depth, right? I like Chark as a depth piece. He helps out on bye weeks and can be relevant there. So for now, sit tight.
Yep. Agreed on that one. You can tell it's getting a little late because my reading abilities have taken a night's shift, I guess. All right, let's go ahead and head to our last Monday night game here. And the Monday night game, Vikings and the Eagles, disregard my misspelling there. Vikings and the Eagles are favored by 2. The over-under is 50.5 on that one. What are your thoughts on this game?
I like the over, and I like the Vikings in this one. I think Justin Jefferson, Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, and Dalvin Cook are going to be a little bit too much for Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, and Sanders.
I see that. I've got it going a little differently. I see this one being 24-21 Philadelphia. Monday night games, right? Like we typically see. This one being a later Monday night game here too. I guess it's not that much later. My apologies there. Typically we see some of these things where we see a Monday night game, we see players and teams play a little bit tighter there. I like the under on this one. I do like Philly to cover just barely, but a 24-21 type of game here where I think we're going to see lots of firepower, lots of back and forth on this one. Very fun game to watch. One of the props that I really like on this one, Miles Sanders over 55.5 rushing yards.
And the prop that I chose for this one was an Adam Thielen anytime touchdown. A little quiet in week 1 against the Packers. I think that kind of changes a little bit, and he finds a way to sneak into the end zone here on Monday night.
Love it. Well, Kevin, I do believe that's going to take it down to the end of it for us. I don't see any other questions in the chat there. So everybody that is you're still tuned in with us, very much appreciate you guys tuning in, checking that out. Thanks for checking out the Friday night's fantasy football lights here on the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast network there, whether you're listening on the podcast or on the videos, whether it's Twitch or Twitter or YouTube there. But Kevin, any final thoughts out there for the viewers and listeners?
Thank you all for tuning in. Please remember to like and subscribe. The best way to support our independent podcast here. And check out the socials. We got rankings up on our website. Obviously, we're active here on YouTube. Twitter is another way to get a hold of us at Good Old Boys FF or goodoldboysff.com. And thank you so much. Let us know how we can help. And best of luck to everybody in week 2.
Absolutely. Those socials, again, are Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, at Good Old Boys FF. And like Kevin said, the best way to support this independent podcast, head over to the YouTube channel, the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button and help us out there. We're also available anywhere that you listen to podcasts out there as well with the Good Old Boys Fantasy Football Podcast on that one there as well. Website, goodoldboysff.com. He's Kevin. I'm Derek. Have a great one. Be safe, y'all.